It's official. Public Defender Stephen Bowden has beat out current Charleston City Councilman Harry Griffin for the District 10 seat on Charleston City Council. I speak exclusively with the councilman-elect for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Councilman-elect Stephen Bowden, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks, Quentin. Always appreciate it.
Appreciate it greatly. And first and foremost, congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. I don't know if I've stopped smiling over the past couple of days, but the real work's going to begin here pretty soon.
Who is Stephen Bowden almost 48 hours later?
Well, Quentin, I'm humbled by the trust that the voters put in me. It was a resounding victory on Tuesday night, and that speaks to the issues that I was focused on day in and day out when I was canvassing. I went to over 3,500 homes during the course of this campaign, and I consistently talked about development, solving our flooding problems, solving our traffic problems, and they all come back to the growth in this area, some of the reckless development of the past. And I'm committed to getting that under control, and that's one of the very first things I would like to start focusing on.
Oh, yes, sir. And I'm sorry, it might be a little windy out here. My camera tripod just dropped here. But you said this on Facebook recently. You said, the quote, "Thank you to everyone who has supported me and followed along since I had this crazy idea in January." What got you from that idea to now being Councilman-elect Stephen Bowden?
It was hard work, Quentin. It was having an idea all that time ago. It was years of having paid attention to what's going on in the city and watching these meetings, and deciding that there was a better way for West Ashley. And I set out not knowing anything about politics really, at least in terms of running a campaign. And I've learned a lot along the way. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about this district, and I'm ready to bring all that to bear on behalf of the people who showed up to vote for me, and those who didn't. And I think that's really important too, that, I understand that some people had a different choice, and I've got to go to work every day to prove to each and every person in this district that I'm the right man for this job.
When it came actually to fundraising, how much did you actually fundraise in total?
It was about 45,000. I can't remember the exact number offhand, but it was enough to run send out the mailers we wanted to make sure that people were seeing the message, run some digital ads. And what I'm really proud of is that money's coming from regular people in my district. There weren't that many of the max donations, the $1,000 donations. It was much smaller numbers. We had a lot of donors. And a lot of people, put their faith in me. They're hardworking people, not rich, and they dug into their pockets and shared what they could. And we were good stewards of their resources.
You talk about those mailers. Obviously, one of the mailers you actually had was allegedly a photo of Mr. Griffin in his mugshot with the situation that he had, obviously. Why go down that route?
I felt that was necessary because there was an attack in the debate, and I really don't want to relitigate necessarily the whole campaign. It's over. I received a very magnanimous call from Mr. Griffin on Tuesday night, and I think that speaks highly of him, because I know how difficult that call would have been to make. But I did feel that it was necessary based on some things that he had to say during a debate about my career as a public defender. I just didn't see those same complaints when he was in need of services, and it's a political campaign. Sometimes you got to remind people of what the facts are. Not everybody's paying attention day in and day out, and so it became necessary, and it wasn't my first choice, but it had to be done.
What were the facts and what were speculations?
Well, the facts were that he got arrested, and he availed himself of an attorney. He went through the criminal justice system, and ultimately his rights were vindicated. That's what every single person is owed in this country: fairness, due process, nothing more, nothing less. And that's what I do in my career, and that's what I hope, and that's what I think people recognize. is that, when I went to join the public defender's office, I went to serve my community. That was my entire aim, is to make sure that each and every person in our community, regardless of wealth, is treated fairly. And I'm not opening the jailhouse doors. I'm not there to get people off. I'm there to guarantee fairness and due process. And sometimes, when in a just system, the government can't meet its burden, and that's what my job is.
What type of integrity will we expect from you on city council?
Well, Quentin, I took a lot of oaths when I became a lawyer, and that's the same standard that I'm going to hold myself to when I'm on city council. Not just integrity, but civility as well. It's making sure that we're able to disagree without being disagreeable, and I think that we're really going to be able to achieve some great things going forward if we can all just take a step back, maybe take a breath, realize that just because sometimes people don't agree with us, it's not the end of the world. They're not the worst people. We still have to find ways to work together.
I want to get back to that in just a second too, but let me ask you, you said that obviously you raised, I believe, $45,000 for that race. Why did you need $45,000 for a city council race, sir?
Well, I was in it to win, Quentin. Unfortunately, that's sort of the name of the game. You gotta have the resources necessary to win. And I will say, each and every one of those donations are because people believed in me. There were donations from people here in the community, and there were donations from people who have known me throughout my life that didn't even necessarily need to know the exact issues in Charleston to know that I was somebody that they would want to be their city councilman if I lived in their city, and that really meant a lot to me that people chose to support me financially.
So those people who've known you all your life, and I know you went to college in Virginia, how much money did you actually get from out of the state?
I'm not sure exactly, but by far the majority of the money was from right here in Charleston.
In District 4?
It wasn't mostly from District 10.
I'm sorry, 10.
Yeah, no problem. There's a lot of elections going on.
Yes.
It was from all over. It was from all over the area. There was quite a bit from my district, and like I said earlier, I'm very proud of that. I think it sort of showed where the race was headed even before election day. But it was from all over the area. So folks downtown, folks West Ashley, folks James Island, all believe that this was something that was worth putting their money towards.
Yes, sir. And I'm sure that's your dog right there.
Yeah.
We got all kinds of things.
I was wondering if he was going to come interrupt.
But let me go back to what you said earlier. Obviously, you want to get people back to where you don't necessarily have to disagree with the people, well, agree with the person, not in order for not to dislike them. Was Harry Griffin a good person? I mean, I'm talking like he's not here, but he's still here. But was he a good person in your mind?
I don't really know him, Quentin. But like I said, I know exactly how hard that call he made on Tuesday night would have been for me. I put, countless hours of work into this campaign. I put my whole self into it, and for him to do the same thing and then pick up that phone and make that call on Tuesday, I think speaks very highly of him. Quentin, we all make mistakes, and I don't know Mr. Griffin, but he's a young guy. He's got plenty of time to learn and grow, just like we all do. And so that's certainly what I hope for myself, is that I learn from every experience and come out a better person on the other side. And I'm sure that he's looking for a silver lining out of all this. I wish him the best.
What is that silver lining?
No, I don't know. He's going to have to decide that for himself. But like I said, he's a young guy. He's got plenty of time to figure it out, and he's further along than most people are at this point in their lives.
But oh,
So,
but
so
generally,
I certainly wish him the best.
yeah, and generally speaking, when it comes to the campaign and what happened, and now we've moved on, obviously, and you're the councilman elect. What was that silver lining in the campaign for you?
For me, it was going out every evening, all day on weekends, and just knocking on the doors and putting in the work to get to know people, to see their hopes for our community, their anxieties, and it was affirming for me to see that not everybody's so extreme like we tend to think they are on when we see on social media. Most people are wonderful, hardworking people, just trying to raise a family and do the right thing, and they just want their lives to be a little bit easier, and they want to see that somebody in government is working every day to make their life a little bit easier.
And let me turn to the issues. What's more important for District 10? Building new homes in commercial space, or rehabbing, expanding, and better utilizing existing homes?
That's a great question. So we do have to focus on the commercial development, because that's what's ultimately going to pay for a lot of the drainage fixes that we need. We've got to get a handle on our development so that we can make sure we're not allowing the problem to get worse. In terms of flooding and traffic, while we're going to fix the problems that we have. But we do need to make sure that we are attracting businesses here, that we're doing everything we can so that small businesses can open, particularly in terms of just the rent they pay has gone up like crazy with the land values going up and property values going up recently. And so we've got a lot of work to do on that front, and I don't pretend to stand here and have the answers. But what I do know that I'll do is go to businesses in the community and find out what their barriers were to opening, and see what is possible for me to do to remove those barriers. Because it's necessary to get those businesses open, get that tax money in, and devote it towards these drainage issues that we have. It's going to take a lot of money to fix them. So we need to.
Oh yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. There's just a little delay here in the Zoom. But let me ask you, what is the current tax base for District 10?
It's mostly residential, and that's fine. I mean, we're, I think, perfectly happy out here as a suburban area. But it's got to increase from the commercial side, and there's been some progress, certainly. And I'll be relentless in finding out what I can do as a city councilman to remove government barriers, to sort of cut through the red tape and really get things open fast, and make sure that our development process is working for people.
And I was just out there earlier today also for work, in addition to North Charleston. So I was out there at Beast Ferry Road and West Ashley Circle. So I see a lot of businesses out there. How do you help local businesses boost their competitiveness among other businesses that are coming from out of town?
I think it has to do with controlling some of the skyrocketing prices. It's making sure that we have space available to open, but it's also being smart about where we're building. So I mean, there's a lot of things that we are going to have to balance going forward, and I got into this knowing full well that each decision that we've got to make right now is tough. I mean, because this is just a critical time for our city, and I like to think that I got into this specifically to embrace those hard decisions, and provide the leadership that our district is going to need going forward.
Would you create a business preservation alliance?
I haven't heard that specific term used, but what I would like to do is basically have a sort of, for lack of a better word, council of small businesses in the area, to make sure that I'm utilizing their knowledge. I work for the government. I am not a business owner. I've seen business owners in my family. I've seen friends operate it, but there's no there's no substitute for having done it yourself. And so I want to go to folks in our community and make sure that I'm getting the input from actual people who have done it, and maybe wish the process was a little bit easier or a little bit more friendly to them, and see what all we can do to to open new businesses, but also keep businesses open.
And let me get back to what you were talking about earlier as far as tackling development. Where in the district do you identify and also develop those unique characteristics when it comes to residential, commercial, and mixed use?
So it's I talked about this being suburban, and I would like to keep that character, but we do need some mixed use type opportunities out here to create. And the Dutch dialogues recognize this. Countless city reports have recognized this. That what we really ought to be doing is focusing on how we can create walkable and bikeable communities, so that we have alternate transportation around. Not everybody's got to get in their car and get on the road and clog up the roads that we have very limited space for. So we will need to get creative in our zoning to create opportunities like that. But we also have to be careful about where we're building, because we have dug ourselves into such a hole out here. I don't think it's any secret to anybody in the city that when we start talking about development out here, you're going to have homeowners up in arms about what it's going to do to flooding. So people don't want to hear that there isn't a plan. We want to see a plan, and we want to see how it's better than the ideas that they've had in the past that obviously have led us to exactly where we are right now.
And I'm going to get back to that in just a second, Mr. Bowden, but let me ask you this. The former Church Creek Piggly parcel, how do you hope this parcel will bring relief to the Church Creek basin, drainage basin that is?
It's just like all other green space that we'd like to create out here. We have, I think, for so long decided that engineering solutions are preferable to just letting God's creation work like it's supposed to. And I think we ought to really rethink the way we've approached that in the past. And I think we are, and I think people are getting smarter about that idea, and making sure that we are reserving a lot of green space, even in new developments. And that's a wonderful thing. And so that parcel is, when it's turned into a park that we can enjoy, and it's kept green in perpetuity. I really hope, just like I hope with some of the places in Shadow Moss where they've torn down houses, including on my street, I hope that new green space is creating flood mitigation for very personal reasons. But I think the more of that type of land that we reserve or reclaim is going to work wonders for the community.
Okay, how many homes have been sold? How many people in your district have actually sold their homes and moved out of District 10 in the past 5 years?
I don't know the exact numbers, but I'll tell you that what I really saw is people in Shadow Moss moving to just getting tired of the flooding problems and moving over to like Village Green or Grand Oaks.
Oh yeah.
I started recognizing them as Shadow Moss refugees out on the campaign trail, and there's a lot. And frankly, that's probably why I was able to buy my house. I'm a public defender and my wife's a teacher. We're not exactly breaking the bank. And we were, fortunate to be able to buy our house, but it's in a flood zone, and there's a reason it became available, and it was in our price range. And I think a lot of people around the same time moved out of the neighborhood. I think generally stayed in the area. I mean, this district has grown exponentially, which really, I think, somewhat fueled the rise in turnout that we saw on Tuesday night. But I think they're generally staying in the district, which speaks to, how happy people are here. What's worth preserving in this area? How much we love living in this community. But we've got to make sure that it's safe for people to live here, including myself. And so we've got a lot of things to balance going forward.
What is worth saving in District 10 right now?
What's the character of this community? It's the fact that this is one of the more affordable places to live in Charleston, and that's why I was able to get in here. That's why a lot of my younger friends have been able to afford a house out here, and that's a great thing, and that's worth saving. And in order to do that, we're going to have to continue to grow responsibly, but responsibly being the key word.
And I learned a lot about Grand Oaks today as I was going to the Tropical Smoothie Cafe there. But let me ask you this. The Church Creek NFWF Renaturalization, Habitat Restoration, and Flood Projection Project. What is the total project budget for that right now?
I don't recall the exact budget. I want to say, I'm not exactly a numbers guy generally, but I want to say it's in the range of $3 million, and it's a great project. I'm really happy to see it. I mean, they're going to be buying property, they're going to be maintaining it as wetlands. They're going to see how they can optimize certain areas in terms of drainage, and see how people can implement things like that on their own properties, and that's great. And we are very fortunate to have that, and we need to pursue any and all opportunities like that. Similar projects right now are the Bridgepoint townhomes, where the city tore those down after the buyouts. That's going to be made an ecological park, with the main purpose being flood mitigation, but also some great recreational opportunities. And I'm happy to see that the city heard the residents out here who said that they wanted more recreational opportunities, but also really focus heavily on the flood mitigation. So I think we're getting the best of both worlds there.
Would you be in favor of establishing a state-of-the-art connectivity system that connect those residents and visitors to the top attractions in town and recreational spots?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know exactly what form that takes. What I would like to see are basically bike trails, or even something where somebody can get from here, basically down the 61 corridor on bike, or whatever other transportation they'd like, maybe even golf carts, to get down there. And I think it could really economically revitalize the area. Now, in order to do that, we're going to need some new infrastructure. We would need at least 2 new bridges. So, it's certainly not something that could happen overnight, but I think it's something to really aspire to.
Yes, sir. And let me go back to the Church Creek NFWF Renaturalization, Habitat Restoration, and Flood Protection Project. That is. Do you know what's the drainage fund for that right now?
I don't off the top of my head, but I will say I'm working on carving out some time to meet with the department heads, and really sort of get I've been paying attention, but I really want to get from just dive into things deeper.
Sure.
And so I will be working hard between now and when I'm sworn in to make sure that I am hitting the ground running in January.
Now, do you foresee this particular project, Mr. Bowden, as far as the project budget to be expended over the next 3 years?
To complete the work through the grant?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think it will be.
Now, what are the other current infrastructure projects in your district right now?
There's a lot of plans. There's not a whole lot of money allocated, but close to the district, they're going to be widening Glenn McConnell. I understand that money has been allocated. There's the flyover, Magwood. There's, we would like to see Glenn McConnell extended. I can't tell you how many times I heard that on the campaign trail. That's something I would like to see. We really need something that's going to create a bypass around 61 with all the development going on up 61 up by the plantations. I think it's called the Watson Hill tract. And that is a staggering number of homes, the crazy amount of land that they cleared. and all that traffic is going to come straight through West Ashley. So we have got to get on this now. This is not something that can wait. That road is already dangerous. There's a school there. There are neighborhoods there. It's hard enough already. I mean, at Ashley Town Landing, right off 61. I mean, they literally have to wait there until somebody is kind enough to stop to let them out. And I mean, traffic can back up there in the morning. I've seen it and didn't realize quite how bad it was until I tried to get out of there myself when I went over there to canvass. And so, we've got to get on these infrastructure things, the flooding infrastructure, which, has been talked about around $50 million. We've got a lot of needs out here. And it's going to take rolling up our sleeves and doing hard work, and making some tough choices. And that's exactly why I ran for this job in the first place. And that's what I plan to do. I'm not somebody who's going to shy away from a tough vote ever. I ran for this to accomplish things, not just be in office forever.
The city has these requirements for traffic studies prior to developments being approved, and people there in your district say that the city basically keeps ignoring that. How can a big, massive, dense development keep coming to West Ashley with the traffic situation as it is, and 526, as far as the extension, is not even coming anytime soon?
Yeah, it's hard to believe that we are so eager generally to put the cart before the horse, and really do what we just sort of do things backwards. And so that's what I think we've got to fix in this round of zoning reform that's been proposed in the comprehensive plan, and that I've talked about extensively as I've been out canvassing. That we really need to get into the details of this and make sure that it's our priorities and not just what the developers want or tell us that they need. So we're the ones at the end of the day who have got to live with these decisions.
How should the city plan to slow outward expansion of the city limits and focus on making necessary changes that is within the city limits?
So we've got to recognize really what sort of land is suitable to build on in the first place.
Okay.
So we're not destroying wetlands. We're not creating more flooding problems that we're eventually going to have to fund our way out of. We've got to recognize where the infrastructure is. And so basically, I mean, we just need sensible policies that are based on data. They're based on science, and that they, really take from the best knowledge in lots of fields, and make sure that we have a policy that prioritizes what we need. It prioritizes livability in the city.
What has been the delay there, but what has been the exponential growth rate in District 10 over the past 5 years?
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, but I can see it with my own eyes, and everybody around me can see it with their own eyes. That it's growing like crazy, and there's no signs of stopping. There's the Long Savannah project.
Right.
There's the expansion of Village Green.
Oh, yeah.
There's further up 61 that we're not responsible for, but we are going to bear the consequences of. And it can't go on forever.
What current public and private partnerships would you be interested in as far as expanding infrastructure in your district?
Well, anytime we are allowing development, I mean, I think we need to know exactly what we are getting in return from the developer. And I think that there's been a decent job done of that recently, but we need to be clear with people what the costs are. There's been a lot of talk about this 17-acre lake. It's planned to improve drainage. It's recreation space, but at the same time, I mean, that's coming at a cost, because that's a mitigation measure. And we need to recognize that these things sound great, but we need to be honest with people about the costs. And if the community is not willing to bear it, sometimes we just need to put some things on pause.
Yes, sir. Let me turn. Oh, I'm obviously here in downtown Charleston. You're out there in your district in West Ashley. But let me talk to you about some developing news. As you know, Roper Hospital just announced just yesterday, hey, in the next couple of years, they're moving away. They want to be able to serve people where they are. And I know that MUSC is long, as far as rumors, maybe taking over that particular spot. I'm not articulating it right, but I know Channel 5 asked MUSC if they had any plans to take over Roper Hospital downtown. And the health officials there said they will have discussions with Roper leadership in regards to Roper's announcement that they're leaving the peninsula. But nothing has been decided at this time. What will be the future of the medical district, which is 2 blocks from where I'm sitting right now?
That's a great question, and that's something we'll have to keep a really close eye on over the next few months. But I think the bigger story here is that this is what our future looks like. There will be companies, there will be people leaving the peninsula until we are able to address the growing flooding crisis. And I very deliberately call it a crisis because we can see jobs moving off the peninsula as a problem. Now, obviously we would welcome them in West Ashley, but at the same time, we've got to see what's vanishing, and it's the problem's not going to get better on its own. So there are some really tough choices ahead, and I don't want to sugarcoat that for anybody. I think it was Councilman Seekings yesterday who said there should be a wake up call for everyone, and I just couldn't agree with that more.
What other wake up calls do you foresee here on the peninsula?
We got really fortunate, at least we have been so far this year, not to have any significant, tropical storms or anything. But they're coming. And I think we shouldn't be waiting for the wake up call. We've got to see it when it's here. We saw it in the 1,000-year flood. We saw it in, the tropical storms after that. And we're going to see it again in the future. And that's why Roper made its decision, and that's what we ought to be looking at. And I don't want to give the impression that nothing's being done about that, because it is. But we've got to double our efforts in some areas to make sure that we are the most resilient city possible going into a future where we know that there may be more of these storms. And we know that when we do have storms, they may be more intense.
Yes, sir. How do you double those efforts as far as a potential seawall?
I haven't been in favor of the Army Corps of Engineers proposed seawall. I do want to keep engaging with the Army Corps of Engineers. I think they've been a wonderful partner for the city so far. They've changed their drawings and plans over time to accommodate what we're asking them to do, and that's great. And most importantly, they're willing to go to Congress and ask for some money to implement this. But I think the Coastal Conservation League has proposed some great plans that I tend to err more towards that side of things. It's a more natural barrier that doesn't separate us from the water. At the end of the day, people come to a coastal city because they want to be by the water. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this is one of these things we're going to have to balance. We do need some protection from surge, and it's different from the drainage issues that we also have. They're two distinct threats from flooding. But it's going to be tough to come up with that money that has been the $300 million. I think that's been talked about to fund our portion of this project. And frankly, it's just something that I don't think people want. I don't think it's the best policy. And so I hope that the Army Corps of Engineers will continue engaging with us on this. I hope we'll continue engaging with them. But I'd really like to see some of the alternatives explored in a more rigorous way.
What rigorous alternative do you favor right now?
So it's basically what the Coastal Conservation League proposed in its report, but it's sort of a more natural barrier, right. And the details are escaping me at this particular second, but it's laid out there, and there are alternatives, and they have less of a ecological footprint on the wetlands. They really took equity into account when they came up with various proposals, and I think that's important because I think it's Councilman Mitchell who's repeatedly pointed out that he's not sure about the fairness aspect of this proposed seawall, where it might not fully protect his district, and so I think we need to be sensitive to those concerns as well.
Yes, sir. And so I'm so sorry about this delay in the Zoom here, but let me fast forward and talk about January. Obviously, you'll be sworn in down to City Hall. What exactly will you do on day one?
On day one, I'll have already been meeting with the department heads and really doing the job. So I don't think anything changes necessarily on day one, except that I'll have a new title, I guess. I do want to find out where we can optimize where money's being sent around the city. So I plan on looking at some programs and finding out more about those and hearing directly from the individuals who are in charge of that particular program about why certain things are necessary and why they cost what they do and those sorts of things. So there's a lot up in the air. There's a whole lot of work to do that I'm really looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and doing. But yeah, I don't think anything necessarily changes on day one from really what I started doing this morning. I did give myself a couple days off.
And when was the last time that your district actually received some money from the city of Charleston?
We do receive money. There's this grant money, which is outstanding. There have been some drainage funds allocated for some projects out here, and then obviously the FEMA buyouts have that was a lot of money. And so I still think that there's further to go in terms of making sure that we're getting the same things that downtown's getting or other parts of the city are getting. But it's not all doom and gloom. There has been some work. We just need to keep doing more.
Councilman-elect Stephen Bowden, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks, Quentin. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And it was great meeting you finally earlier today.
Yeah, it was great to see you twice in one day.
Yes, sir.